Hi, everyone. Welcome to Mini Scroll, the daily internet culture podcast bringing you the biggest stories from social media, the creator economy, and the digital space every Monday through Thursday. I'm your host, Lauren Meisner, the founder of the youth digital media brand, Centennial World. All right, welcome back to Mini Scroll, everyone. Happy Monday. I'm going to get right into the stories because I have a lot to cover. The first story that I have for you guys is we need to talk about Halley Kate's Hamptons house. People are losing their minds over the fact that this TikToker bought a house in the Hamptons, and there is just so much going on. I wasn't even going to cover this. It happened last week, but it has exploded even more. I'll get into that in a minute, but yes, anyways, I'm going to cover it now because there is a lot to be discussed. So last week, New York City TikToker Halley Kate revealed that she bought a house in the Hamptons, and she also bought a Land Rover on the same day so she could drive from New York City to the Hamptons. Halley has been making content on TikTok since 2020, so 4 years, and is part of that kind of New York City lifestyle influencer group with like Kit Keenan and all those girls. She has 1.2 million followers on TikTok, and she is 23 years old. Okay, so why is this a story? So people immediately lost their minds when they saw that she bought this house. I have a few ideas as to why that happened, but the reason why I wanted to talk about this today is because now she is basically being doxxed. So people have found her house listing. I understand like house stuff, that's public record, but they found it, they're posting her address, they're posting, how much she paid for it. And then she shared something over the weekend. So she shared a screenshot on her stories, and I did not see this. So grain of salt, I just kind of am reporting on what I have seen people talk about. So she allegedly put this screenshot on her stories of a text message that she received from someone saying like, girl, be careful how much you share online about your house. Like people can find your address or like whatever, people are scary, like warning her. Okay. So she put this on her stories. And she put a screenshot of it. And you could see, I guess, like in the text message that it was like a phone number and not someone's name. Anyways, a random person, a random stranger found her phone number online on the internet and texted her this. They found information about her online and then texted her to say, be careful about what people can find about you online. That is so scary. Like imagine being a young woman whose job is to put yourself online. I understand she chose that for herself, but I still think any type of job that you do, you shouldn't be necessarily subjected to this kind of stuff. There always needs to be a layer of protection and security around people. And then you get a message like this from a random stranger to your personal phone. That is so scary and so wild. So she put this up and then she kept that girl's number. I think it was a girl that messaged her. She kept that girl's number in her Instagram stories. And that, of course, copped a lot of criticism as well. But people were like, oh my God, now Halley's doxing this girl. Like she should be covering up that phone number. I don't know how I feel about that. Like, I don't know if I was in that situation, if I would have shared her number or if I would have blocked it out. I understand, though, like her decision to not block it out. This person has invaded Halley's privacy in such an extreme way by like personally texting her. If you want to reach her, like DM her. Is so invasive. So I understand why she was like, well, fuck that. Like, if you're going to send me a message like this and text my personal number, even though it was like under the guise of being a nice message, I'm going to share your number on my story. So I don't know. I don't know how I feel about that. I don't know if I would have done the same, but that's what happened. So what I think has happened here, because I don't know if you guys are on the same algorithm as me, but literally for like at least 48 hours, my whole feed, my whole TikTok For You page was just people talking about this. And I also go on Reddit a lot for my job. Obviously, I'm like trying to see what's going on all the time. And I follow New York City influencer subreddit. I don't know what it is about her. They post about her more than any influencer. It's actually wild. So my whole feed has just been filled with this. Obviously, Reddit has been going crazy about her buying this house. It's been such a topic of conversation, and it is kind of bizarre because, influencers buy houses. They make a lot of money. Like, we know this. So I think there's a few reasons why this like hit people so hard. I think the first is that, Halley built her following off of being like relatable and being this girl from Virginia who came to New York to try and like go to school and like make it. And I think that was a really relatable and interesting story to follow. She's very much like girl next door. And we have seen this before. We have seen fan bases turn on their faves once their fave has made it. Like they are all about supporting them and building them up and feeling like they're part of that success and that growth. And then when that person actually does blow up and it feels kind of in your face, like if they make a big purchase like a home or something, it feels really on the nose and it reminds people of this disparity between themselves and this person that they follow. One of the most recent examples of this that I can remember is when Hassan Piker bought a house in 2021. He bought a $3 million house and literally everybody was so mad. Like the internet lost its mind. So this kind of reminds me of that. I also think there's an element to the fact that we know how much Halley pays for her rent in New York City because when she and her boyfriend broke up last year, I think it was last year. Yeah, I think it was like October, November of last year. When they broke up last year, you know, she was like crying on TikTok and people were sending her Venmo and like gifts and things like that because she was being really open and vulnerable. And then somebody had sent her a Venmo thing for her whole rent and she like shared a screenshot of that so you could see how much she paid for rent. So I think the fact that we know how much she pays for rent, which is a lot of money in New York City, and she's keeping that apartment and then now she's also able to afford this house in the Hamptons. The Hamptons is notoriously a very expensive area. I know there's a lot of mixed opinions on if her house is actually in the Hamptons or not. I'm not really going to comment on that. I'm not even American, so I don't really know that area at all. But it is not cheap to buy a house probably anywhere in New York State now, let alone anywhere close to the Hamptons or New York City. So it's just such an obvious, like in your face realization, I suppose, of how much money influencers are actually making. Because like we know in theory, but I think to see it come to fruition like this and really understand the numbers behind it, it's very in your face then. The other thing that I wanted to point out was a video by Yasmin Adeline is getting a bit of traction. She's talking about I think she's talking about Halley's house. She doesn't quite say it, I don't think, but she says, you know, we need to stop like shitting on influencers for making a lot of money because influencing is really one of the only woman-dominated industries that is well paid. And that is so true. And we did have a conversation similar to that in 2018 when the beauty YouTube community started to get really dramatic. And there was just, I mean, obviously, as we know, for years after that, the beauty YouTube community basically imploded on itself because of all the drama that was going on. And it got a really bad reputation for being really dramatic, really catty, this space that was not safe for creators. And there was a discussion about the fact that the creators, who, for the most part, who were like fostering that environment were white men at the top. It was Jeffree Star, Shane Dawson, James Charles. Obviously, there was, you know, Tati and like all these other things involved. But for the most part, it was these men in powerful positions at the top who were making it this really hostile, negative place, this really dramatic place, when really beauty YouTube started as a community for women. And it's a woman-dominated corner of the internet, and it got this really toxic reputation, largely because of men at the top, but also because it's like associated with being a woman-dominated industry, if that makes sense. So it's interesting to look at it now from the TikTok perspective because completely agree. Like if you consider how much athletes, for example, are paid, and this is one of the points that Yasmin makes, like nobody bats an eye if a sports player signs some multi-million-dollar deal with like a protein shake or, you know, with like Nike or whatever, but everyone gets all up in arms when Halley Kate can afford to buy a cottage in the Hamptons. I don't know if this is like a hot take, but in my opinion, I don't see much difference between what a professional sports player is doing versus what a reality star or an influencer is doing. I think when it comes to like what they are providing society, it is very similar. I'm not saying that the talent and the work behind it is similar. I understand that influencing is an objectively easy job. It's not easy in the sense that like you have so much public scrutiny and you're always on 24/7 and it would be very difficult on your mental health. Like I'm not discounting that at all. But in terms of like the output of what you actually have to do day to day, it is, we all know, much easier than working most jobs. And I don't think being a professional athlete is much easier than most jobs. But to me, athletes and influencers are in the same category as entertainment, right? Like if you think about what they're providing society, they are giving us entertainment, they're giving us community. Like at the end of the day, a sports player is what? Like kicking a ball, hitting a ball for what? And it's kind of the same as what people say about influencers. And both of these industries, both of these careers are helping, at the end of the day, the country make money and corporations make money. And that is why they are paid so much. That is why influencers are paid so much money, because at the end of the day, they have attention, and attention equals money for corporations. So corporations are paying them. They're helping corporations make money. And it is just capitalism. That is just how it works. And I think it is much easier for us when we are feeling frustrated about the cost of living and just like everything in life is so hard right now. I think it's much easier for us to project that anger on like individuals and have almost like a representative, like a talking head of like who we're angry at in the influencer capitalist like hellscape that we live in, than it is for us to be like angry at like the system. Because that's always, of course, the counter argument. It's like, well, if you're mad about this, like it's not Halley's fault or it's not this influencer's fault. It's the system. Of course it is. Like if you told me that I could post X amount of TikToks a day and make all of that money, I would do it. I'm sure most people would say yes to that, right? But it's much easier to be angry at a person than the system, because first of all, what is being angry at the system? What does that even mean? Like, who are you mad at? And how do you direct that anger, and how do you make change? And I think that's why cancel culture, this is just a whole tangent now, but I think that's why cancel culture got so prominent in 2020. We were going through so much collectively, like around the world, and it became much easier for us to say, well, you know what? We can at least direct our anger towards these celebrities and these influencers that we feel are acting not in our best interest when it comes to the pandemic, for example. And that feels like tangible change that we can make. Like we can quote unquote cancel them. And I'm not saying people are trying to cancel Halley at all, but I see a similar reaction to this because we are going through a very difficult time right now with the cost of living around the world and the genocide going on. And there's just like a lot. So that's why I don't like when people blame it on like jealousy from a fan base perspective. I think that's a gross oversimplification of what is going on, the dynamic between an influencer and a fan base. And I think being able to just like slap a label like jealousy on it, it also shuts down any critical discussion about what is going on in the creator economy and the world right now with the cost of living and kind of our social media consumption and what watching these people parade around with their wealth, what that's doing to the general public and like all the different nuances related to that, right? So I don't like saying, oh, these people are just jealous. I mean, first of all, yes, I am. I am definitely jealous. And I'm sure lots of people are jealous, but there's so much more to that than just jealousy. All right, the next story that I have for you guys after that giant ass tangent is that speaking of influencer finances, I have a fun little tidbit for you guys. StassieBaby has revealed who pays when she and Kylie Jenner go out. So in a new TikTok posted this weekend, StassieBaby and her BFF Kylie Jenner went to Erewhon, and in the video, Stassie revealed that she actually pays when she and Kylie go out because Kylie almost always forgets her wallet. So obviously Stassie is rich, but it's interesting to consider like when your best friend, when someone this close to you is an actual billionaire and is significantly more wealthy than the rest of your group of friends, like who pays and like what's the dynamic there? Are you like splitting bills, whatever? So I think this actually makes sense when you think about it, because if you think about like how much Kylie seems to treat her friends around her, you know, they're going on vacations and she buys them lavish gifts and all these things, I think it makes sense that Kylie foots those like big bills. I don't think she's asking Stassie to kick in for like the private jet fuel when they're going to Turks and Caicos or whatever. And she's probably not asking her to like Venmo her for, you know, the resort or whatever she's booked. But yeah, when they go out and they're just, you know, going out for dinner or like going to Erewhon to get smoothies or like whatever Stassie's paying, I think that's just such an interesting dynamic. And I don't really have anything else to say about that except for just telling you guys that because I thought it was cool. All right. And the last story that I have for you guys, I feel like this episode's going to piss people off. The pop girlies are copping some backlash for taking advantage of their fans yet again. So this is an ongoing conversation, but Music Analysis TikTok is expressing increased frustration with pop stars this week, namely Taylor Swift and Billie Eilish, for essentially like feuding publicly over the top spots on the charts and by doing so making their fans collateral damage. So the conversation was triggered by Taylor releasing new versions of the Tortured Poets Department that include 3 live recordings from her recent Paris shows, only available for 24 hours, but she has put these 3 songs on 3 different like editions of the album. So you have to buy all 3 albums to get all 3 songs. So this has been looked at as a move to basically knock Billie Eilish, who just released Hit Me Hard and Soft, out of the top spots in the Billboard 200 charts. And first of all, this has opened a lot of discussions about how the charts work, that the charts need to start like basically changing the way that they analyze songs and albums and things like that, because if artists can just keep doing this to like maintain that top spot, that's not really fair, and it's just hurting the fans at the end of the day. But all of this comes after Billie has been seemingly taking some shots at Taylor in the press. So she appeared in an interview on Station Head this week where she was asked if she planned to put every Hit Me Hard and Soft track on her performance set list. And she said she couldn't do that, explaining that her show would, quote, be 1,000,000 years long and she'd have to cut other songs in her discography. She also called having a 3-hour-long show psychotic. She said, "Nobody wants that. You guys don't want that. I don't even want that as a fan. My favorite artists in the world, I'm not trying to hear them for 3 hours. You know what I mean? Far too long." And obviously, as we know, the Eras Tour is over 3 hours long. And then in March, I don't know if you guys remember this. I think I reported, I guess I wasn't doing mini scroll in March. I feel like I did report on this. I don't know, maybe on TikTok. But anyways, in March, Billie spoke with Billboard about sustainability, and she called out, quote, some of the biggest artists in the world for making multiple vinyl packagings to boost their own sales. And she basically said it's so wasteful. So that was also considered like a shot at Taylor Swift. However, Billie has also released several versions of her new album. So it's just like a big mess. But I think it's interesting. It's starting a really good, I think, and hopefully productive discussion. And I know there's a lot of people who are like, it's the record labels that make them do this, that make them release all these different versions. I am sure there is a part of that for sure. Like there is a marketing team behind that. But I would argue that when you are at the level of Taylor Swift and even Billie Eilish, who are 2 of the biggest artists, most well-known, famous, successful, money-making artists in the world, I think they have much more control over their marketing strategy than we're probably giving them credit for. I think it's really convenient to be like, Taylor Swift, she's this marketing genius. But then when it suits us as fans of Taylor Swift or any artist, to be like, oh, no, actually, it's just her label. She actually has no control over that. Like, you can't have it both ways. I think there's a lot of greed right now when it comes to attention. And my friend Crystal said that. She actually commented on a video. Oh, I wish I had the screenshots, right, Crystal? She commented that on a video that was like talking about this whole thing. She said like the biggest artists in the world right now seem so greedy for attention and it's going to backfire on them. And I completely agree. Anyways, guys, that's it for Mini Scroll today. Thank you so much for listening. Please remember to rate, review, and subscribe if you like this episode, if you like my daily podcast, and I will talk to you guys tomorrow. Bye.